Check your gear and weapons. We'll be deploying shortly. Enemy soldier incoming. Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the skies. Enemies dropping into the AO. All stations, this is Shadow 01. Deployment to the war zone has been authorized.
I want that bird ready in 3 mics. Relay those coordinates. There you are.
We got the green light. You're going to the war zone. Grab your gear and shoot. You're up in 3.
Enemy activity will be high. Expect contact early and often.
Let's get this done. Resurgence. Stay alive to keep your squad in the fight. Your team leader. Set a drop point for your squad, soldier. Maintain your position for squad eliminations. Keep pushing. Time for vengeance. You're redeploying.
Hostile Guardian has been deployed.
Your squad mates redeploying. Well done.
Hostile Mosquito is online. Hostile counter UAV overhead.
Feeling weak.
Hostiles deploy the Mosquito.
No one threats in the area.
Hostile Mosquito is online.
Your squad mates back on station. Good work. You're getting another chance. Make it count. You've got reinforcements inbound. marked on your attack map.
Hostile Guardian active.
Cancel last.
Ready for the safe zone.
Requesting close air. Target marked.
Need rockets.
Hostile Guardian has been deployed. Hostiles deploy the mosquito.
Supply box secure. 2 to go. Loadout drop headed your way. You're back on station. Go get after it.
Hostile mosquito is online.
1 supply box remaining. Move and secure that daggone thing. Contract complete. All supply boxes secured.
Enemy. Enemy movement.
Rogue signal broadcast detected. Encrypted signal confirmed. Damage to enemy squads. Supply boxes located. Move to secure.
Hostile Guardian is active.
On to the next one. Supply boxes down. 1 to go. Get ready. You're redeploying. We're outside the top squad. Let's push harder to break in.
Hey, you gonna get me, Johnny? Hey, could somebody come get me? Jesus Christ.
You have a buy station inbound.
Come on, man. Goddamn, dog.
And I think that's exactly the state we were at. We played around with the parts long enough before we got there, before they could make the reactor.
Man, you fucking bitch.
Fuel exactly what was going on in the reactor. We made the best of it at the time.
You're losing ground. Move it.
I don't think anybody really knew anything. They could just watch what was going on and they noticed. I'd say about 600%. And what progress you made this week? Well, we came up with a bunch of.
All right, your squad's in the safe zone. Your squad mate's back on station. Good work.
One of them was the base, the square base of it was essentially like a which is so small. Particle accelerators and linear particle accelerators are just a long tube essentially.
Enemy soldier incoming.
Radio frequencies and they reach high speeds, but a cyclotron does that kind of small circuit area. And there's 115, something at the charts. But it is now. It is now.
2004, Wilhelmstadt, Germany, I think is where they first fabricated 4 atoms that lasted 220 milliseconds. The atoms is nothing, right? And then later it was discovered a couple more times they could fabricate it. Then they gave it a place then on the periodic chart after that called it Musco.
So they told you about this stuff in 1982?
Yeah, well, we kind of.
What year was this?
It was 88 and 89 when I was there. 82 is when I was in Los Alamos.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So 88, 89, they told you about this stuff. So this was not like...
No, they didn't tell me about it. That's one of the things that this group came up with. The, keep losing my train of thought with this.
So this one area, this element 115 was the fuel.
Yeah, it was the fuel.
The world will forgive you for having a migraine.
It's really hard to think through this. Just give me a minute.
Just to give you more.
I just want to say one. Yeah, definitely. I was going to say one thing. You know, Bob, for the last 30 years, people have just been on the attack on Bob. You know, getting to know him, the personal effects on his life. It's really hard to understand unless you meet his family and his wife. I mean, this is the last thing he wanted to fucking do, was have to talk.
Yeah, we should explain that, John. You and I had this conversation. I watched your documentary. We had this conversation. I said, I have to talk to him. Yeah. The document, there's been detractors. There's been a bunch of people that called bullshit on many of the things that you said. But over time, many of the things that you talked about, even in the 80s, have proven true. Things that people said were not true were proven to be true. Element 115 was one of them.
Right. Element 115, the fuel they had, was stable. In other words, it didn't decay. It wasn't emitting radioactivity. When they synthesized the 2 or 3 atoms of the 115, it did decay, and it was not a stable element. So they're kind of two different things. But this is kind of typical. Elements always have, pretty much always have, stable isotopes and unstable isotopes. Cesium has like 30 unstable isotopes to it. So, hydrogen, for example, if you're familiar with hydrogen gas, it's stable, it's not radioactive. But there's also 2 other types of hydrogen, deuterium and tritium. And deuterium isn't radioactive, it's another stable isotope of hydrogen, but tritium is radioactive. Now they're all hydrogen, but they just have different amounts of neutrons. So it's the same thing with other elements and element 115. Depending on the amount of neutrons it has, designates the isotope, but it's 115. They will continue to take or experiment and try and make 115 at different isotopes, and I'm sure eventually they'll come up with a stable version. But it's the stable version that has the properties that we're talking about.
So they somehow or another had acquired a stable version. They say that the stable version would come with this package?
Yeah, it absolutely came with the package.
So at the time, you having a firm knowledge of the periodic chart, knowing what was real and what wasn't real, what was your reaction to having this stable element 115 that wasn't even supposed to exist?
Well, everything was impossible.
Right.
I mean, down to the metal. I did get a chance to look inside the craft on one occasion, and this was important because where the reactor sat might have been critical to how it operated, since everything operates without any interconnections, so the placement of components might be critical. So they allowed me to go inside and look at it.
So you're going into this craft, and what are you thinking when you're inside? What do you see?
It's a very ominous feeling, because there are no, first of all, everything is one color. It's like a dark pewter color, and there are no right angles anywhere. It's as if somebody took, I've said this before, somebody took a model out of, fashioned it out of wax, and then heated it just for a short time, so everything melted. Everything looks like it's fused together. Everything has a radius of curvature to feet. It's a really weird looking thing. But there was almost nothing other than a small foldable hatchway that looked recognizable. Everything was really unworldly, to pick a way to describe it.
So you get inside this thing, and it's designed for something that's much smaller than you.
Yeah, you can't really stand up till you get to the very center of it.
And how tall are you?
I'm 5'10".
And what do you think this was designed?
I'd say something close to half.
So these little 3-foot tallish creatures
Yeah, and the seats were small too. I mean, obviously it was made for something small. But there was no, like there's nothing else in there. There's just seats, the reactor, and some of the subcomponents. There's no control panels. There's no bathroom. There's no decorative components or artwork or anything that you would recognize or trim. I mean, it's just a very bare bones thing.
That's screens.
Well, there are archways around it that are part of the superstructure, and one of the archways can become transparent. When I was in there, there was another group working on one of the archways, and you could call that a screen, more or less.
So through that archway, it would maintain the solidity, the solid, whatever metal it was.
Yeah.
But you could see
it just became transparent. Yeah. I saw that happen once or twice before I left.
Did you ask any questions about what the fuck?
No, there's no asking.
There's no asking questions. But when you watch something become transparent and you realize it's still there, you can now see through it.
Yeah, I mean, now that's not that impressive. We do have some liquid crystal materials that are like that. Smart glass. Yeah, they call it smart glass. So this is just, and I don't know if the craft is made of, advanced metal or ceramic. It was cold to the touch, so I would lean more towards a metal.
You're not allowed to ask questions.
No, they work on the buddy system, so I can only exchange ideas when I talk to Mary. Now this really interferes with science, because science is based on free discussion. And ideally you get a bunch of guys together, exchange ideas, work on problems, and that's how things move forward. But they're so over the top concerned about security, they split everything off and everybody becomes stagnant. It just destroys any of the progress you can make, or at least makes it go so slow. I think they wind up shooting themselves in the foot.
Which is probably why they arrived at the bottleneck that they needed to get this jet power Honda and see what they could do.
I think that was an act of desperation. I think they wanted someone that thinks out of the box and let's just give this guy a try here, because they were. They might have done this 4 more times since, up to the point in time today, assuming they're still working on this thing.
And when you see this craft and you're inside, was there any indication that there was an area that they would use to control it, to pilot? Was there a pilot seat?
There were 3 seats. They sat around, the reactor was in the dead center of it, and then equidistant around the 3 seats. So and that's all. There was a large, they're not consoles, they're large rectangular objects, also spaced equidistant around the center. There's nothing on it, there's no buttons, there's no lights, and they control the same color, everything at the same color, just a different shape. Right. And directly underneath them, there's 3 levels in the craft. The main levels that we're talking about, directly under that, those are the gravity amplifiers, the big rectangular objects. Underneath them are the gravity emitters that look like, for lack of a better word, a trash can hanging on a pipe. 3 of those. And then the top layer, this is just my personal belief, I think that has to do with a navigation or their version of a computer with some planar panels, sensor panels around the craft that we would call portholes, but they're portholes, they're just black areas. And I think that just determines its position in space. But I physically was in the center section, and I stuck my torso in the bottom section and hung upside down so I could see how the gravity amplifiers were positioned.
What is roughly the size of this thing?
I don't remember from being there, but after all this stuff was over, I had John Andrews, a guy from the Testers Model Corporation, and we sat down and tried to figure out what I saw and known sizes of things, and we came up with 52 feet in diameter. So I think that's
very small.
Yeah, so I think that's a reasonable guess.
Now you said there's 9 of them, and you got a brief glimpse of the other ones. How are they different?
Oh, they looked completely different. One looked like I called it Jello mold. It looked like a classic Jello mold with rippled sides to it. One was a very flat disc like a straw hat or something like that. That was sitting up on its edge, and the thin part of it looked like a projectile had been fired through the edge of it. So I don't know if they were attempting to see if the metal could be penetrated, or if something, or if that's where the thing came from and we were shot down. But that was the only one where I saw there was actual physical damage to it.
That one was roughly the same size.
They were kind of too far away to tell.
And there were several teams that were working on propulsion systems. Teams that were working on these different programs.
I could only assume.
Now, when you're sitting in this thing and you're looking at this otherworldly craft,
Check your weapons, check your gear. We're holding for deployment.
Got contact!
Green light, we are deploying to the war zone. Resurgence. Survive and your team can redeploy. Eliminate targets to bring them back faster.
Let's hit this LZ first.
Enemy dropping into the AO.
Requesting fire mission. Target marked.
Copy. Mortar strike inbound now. Hit. Shots missed.
Gas is moving. All squad members are in the safe zone. You got a loadout drop inbound.